Hey King, thanks for clicking on the video. I'm Cody B, and today I want to take a look at our boy Hemingway, Jason Blaha. Recently, Blahino's been getting up to quite a few shenanigans, and they have really solidified the idea in my head that Jason Blaha might be a little crooked, a little bent you could say, just not entirely straight, if you catch my drift. It has been long theorized in the Blaha-verse that Jason isn't quite as heterosexual as he would want us to believe. Now, before we get too far into this, I do want to be clear that I'm not making this video to bash on him for being a part of the letter crowd. It's truly not a problem. I just really find it funny how hard Jason fights against his true inclinations, and I ultimately want him to be honest with us, the audience, but most importantly, himself. Jason has said and done a lot of things that a real heterosexual man would not do, such as the tons of examples of old forum posts where Jason details his many bedroom escapades, using arguments such as, it's not gay if it's done with a woman. Now, let me be clear, if you feel the need to make that particular argument, the thing you're doing is gay. I'm sorry, but it is. But don't get it twisted here, that's okay. We live in current year, so if you want your female partner to be staring at the back of your not actually bald head when you guys have fun, that's perfectly fine. What isn't as fine, however, is when Blaha tries to put on his tough guy act. He pretends to be a man's man who has to practically fight off women who are constantly throwing themselves at him. I mean, at least nowadays he fights them off. Back in the day, he was sure to have his fun.
So, I mean, it's just been pretty bad stuff. I mean, so if people want a real example, I don't know, like being in the middle of a party at someone's house and start making out and having sex with a girl right there on the couch in front of everybody and her having to go grab her blanket and throw it over us till we finish. Right there with just 20 people hanging around. That sort of stuff. I've given an apology for that as an example. So, all right, it stuff happens. So,
right on the couch in front of everyone, you say, Blaha? That sounds pretty wild, crazy, and obviously fake. The story comes off as Jason trying way too hard to convince us that he's a cool, tough, straight guy, but it's a bit too outlandish. I mean, I don't know what kind of parties Jason Blaha went to in his younger years, but any party I've ever been to, this wouldn't fly. The reaction wouldn't be to grab them a blanket, it would probably be physically removing them from the party, because what the hell is wrong with you? That's insanely disrespectful to do on someone's couch. If you're gonna go do that, do it somewhere private. But hey, Jason did apologize after, so he's still a good guy. See, if Jason was a good pathological liar, he would have just said something like, alcohol might make you a bit more willing to sleep with someone you might regret later. I know I've got a bit of experience with that. That's all he would have had to say, and most people would have taken it at face value. So the question becomes, why did Jason make up such an outlandish story? I personally believe that in instances like this, where he tells a story about his past that is so obviously fake, he's trying to do two things. One, he's trying to live some weird, ill-adjusted, awkward power fantasy while trying to convince you that he's insanely tough. I mean, it's implied that he got away with this act because he's such a stud that no one could stop him even if they wanted to. And two, he's trying to convince himself that he's a tough guy by overcompensating, trying to repress his true self, who is just a soft, fruity little guy. So maybe you aren't convinced that Blaha is a fruitcake. Maybe you believe his stories and you think that I'm entirely in the wrong and that maybe I'm the fruitcake because I'm so obsessed with Jason being one. Well, if that's the case, let me bring your attention to a video that Jason made some years back that I have actually covered on my channel before, but it's too important to this particular topic to not bring it up again.
Okay, the last thing you want to have happen when you go to a formal occasion and you're wearing a suit and they can't always see your physique is for people to ask, does that guy even squat? So make sure that you fit your trousers in such a way that people can see your quads and your squat booty. And let me show you guys. Okay, you want them just snug enough that they can see the outer sweep of the quad, and you want them to be able to see the booty. Turn that up just a little more. Because, as I said, at the end of the day, you don't want anybody looking at you in your suit and going, does that guy even squat? Alright guys, I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you next time.
That is just simply not a video you make as a heterosexual man. Heterosexual men simply do not advertise their booty, as Jason calls it. It's just simply something that we straights do not take part in. But you know what? Maybe that still isn't enough to convince you. Well, how about this clip here where he describes a particular attribute that he enjoys in only women, of course.
Like, I'll be honest, I like armpits on women. I like hairy armpits on women. That's the kink of mine. There you go. The grossness of Blaha's degeneracy just got exposed. It's the smell. Yeah. Especially they just got back from the gym. I like that. All right.
Hairy armpits and BO really get Blaha going. That's what's up. Now, Jason did specify that it's hairy women armpits, but here's the thing. Hairy armpits are a very masculine trait. Most women don't have hairy armpits, so to call that out specifically is just a bit sus to me. Makes me think that Jason wouldn't be so uncomfortable in the embrace of a man, or at least about as close to a man as a woman could get. But you don't want to know what? The most wild part of this stream is actually before he talks about the armpits. He straight up admits that he would take part in male-on-male relations for the right price.
But that's the other thing, Bagel. Nobody really cares. I mean, I just don't think we care anymore if someone's gay or bi or anything. It's not a big deal. Of course, then when I say that, that's when haters make videos going, they're murdering it. So I'm not gay. I mean, for enough money, I would be, I guess. I guess if the price was right. I mean, do you guys want me to be honest or you want me to be a liar? I mean, I guess if the price was right, I'd consider it. Not for free though.
You know what, Jason? You're right. I am the hater that's making a video saying, haha, he admitted it, because you did. Now, I will say that he does still have a sliver of plausible deniability because he did specify it was for the right price. Now, he didn't give a number, but maybe his number in his head is something like $1 million or something super high and unrealistic, which gives him the possibility of maintaining straightness if you're extremely charitable. But what is a fact is that Jason did describe G for P, something that he is oddly obsessed with. Jason has this fantasy that a majority of the people in the fitness world, at least the aesthetic bodybuilding side of it, partake in a practice of younger men selling their bodies to other men in order to make money to afford the steroids that they require to maintain their physiques.
And a lot of people who are, especially younger guys who are newer to this game, seem to be unaware that gay for pay is a massive part of the bodybuilding subculture, and it has been since before I started training. And I've been around all of this long enough to know, and I've had friends, personal friends who competed in bodybuilding who were prostitutes.
Okay, so here's the thing. Does this sort of thing happen? Probably. I mean, it really isn't that much of a stretch to assume that it happens, but is it nearly as rampant as what Jason Blaha would have you believe? Probably not. I mean, the fact that Jason would have multiple quote-unquote friends who did this, if they're even real, which I do doubt, just says a lot more about the type of people that Jason surrounds himself with, not the industry at large. To be fair, however, he was hyping this up most likely because the time period in the Blaha story he was talking about this the most was when he was on his bodybuilders are all gay arc. He fancied himself a powerlifter at the time and would say things like caring about what your body looks like as a man is very gay and that women hate it.
Most of you guys who are like, I'm a bodybuilder, you guys do realize all your guy friends think that shit is gay. That you guys sit around worrying about your body. All right, there are probably women, chicks you want to smash, who think you're in the closet if you're into bodybuilding. Furthermore, it is an obsession with the aesthetics and beauty of other men's bodies. That is a female characteristic. All right, that is a feminine personality trait.
This is just massive cope from old Blaha. The pictures that were on the side of that clip were old photos of Jason when he was younger and, well, bodybuilding. This entire stance that he took was nothing but projection, in my opinion. Jason wanted nothing more than to have a nice sugar daddy to fund his physique, but he was never able to find one, so he got salty and began to lash out at all the other bodybuilders who were infinitely more successful than him. Jason may not have ever been able to find a sugar daddy, so he decided to try to cast a wide net and get multiple sugar daddies. Or, no, I'm sorry, cash in on his massive MILF fan base by creating an OnlyFans.
And it's obvious that a lot of MILFs find me super hot. I usually have people who say that I look like a Greek god. That's a line I've heard from multiple women. I've been told that I have a really impressive aesthetic physique, impressive aesthetic physique, impressive aesthetic physique, impressive aesthetic physique. Yes, I'm going to do one. It's going to be catered more towards the MILFs. And I actually have a pretty large MILF fan base. A bunch of them responded. Some of them sent PMs, quite a few of them, over me putting those pictures up on social media, because I put it up on all my social media, shared it to groups. And I don't care if gay dudes want to send money. That's fine. I'm not necessarily catering to them, but you know what? I don't care. Money is money, right?
I don't really think this needs to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. Jason Blaha doesn't have a massive MILF fan base. This is just massive cope, one of Jason's verbal affirmations that he gives himself on a daily basis, and it's honestly kind of sad. That, or he's actually trying to play into his infamy a bit with this. My theory is that he is somewhat self-aware about this. He obviously knows that he has a massive troll viewer base, so maybe he's hoping that someone will have enough morbid curiosity to pay him to get access. Which, by the way, don't do that, but I do also believe that Jason may not be overtly lying about this MILF thing. I'm confident that Jason Blaha has plenty of so-called MILFs in his DMs or commenting on his posts. However, what our high IQ, Greek god physique having bodybuilding master doesn't realize is that none of these MILFs are real. I would wager that every single one of these individuals that Jason is feeding his ego with are one of two things. Either it is a troll catfishing Jason trying to bypass his relentless ban hammer, maybe trying to get him to say something ridiculous and funny in the DMs, or it's a bot trying to get Jason to send money to it. Either way, there is still a grand total of 0 actual MILFs who are watching Blaha and enjoying his physique. Also, anytime he mentions a MILF interaction that took place in person, it is an outright lie. Jason doesn't go outside. Turning back to my original thesis, however, I feel that this is further evidence of Jason being a fruitcake. I mean, let's be honest here, selling your body on OnlyFans is a mostly female-dominated profession, which on its own doesn't necessarily make Jason a fruitcake, but if we take a look at a bit more of his tasteful content in this clip here, I think you'll see that homeboy Dante is onto something.
Hey Dante, I'm actually straight. So, no, I'm actually 100% straight.
Now look, I can't really speak for all of the MILFs out there, but I have no idea what they would get out of any of these photos. Jason has a weird thing for taking pictures of himself fake sleeping when he's trying to be quote-unquote sexy. I really don't get it personally, but I will say that these photos and positions don't really give off the impression of Jason being the dominant one. Another big event that took place in the Blaha-verse that made him look really questionable was when he received a package from a troll that contained a particular gift that I'm confident Jason has plenty of experience with.
Well, here's the package. It was in the picture. Oh, there's some gift receipts in here. Let's see. Gift receipt. So send us a gift. You guys, what does it say on there? Can you guys read that? This is what natural hypertrophy sent to me as a person who's against degeneracy. Do you guys want to see it? Do you want to see it? I don't know. Maybe some guys should drop some super chat if they want me to show you what natural hypertrophy sent me and what he fantasizes about. This is his fantasy, right?
That has to be one of the most low-income things I have ever heard anyone say. Let me get some super chats and I'll show you what he sent me. It's genuinely pathetic. Anyone who begs, or in this case I suppose demands donations for them to do something in a stream is the lowest form of scum. But as far as Jason's actual response to receiving this very thoughtful gift, I might add, he tries to turn it around and say that natural hypertrophy is actually the one who's into this kind of thing. Which is an odd angle to take because natural hypertrophy is one of Blaha's biggest trolls/critics. The man has an over 20-part series detailing the story of Jason Blaha, going over all kinds of things about our boy Hemingway. So if natural hypertrophy did actually send this, which from my understanding isn't 100% confirmed, I could be wrong about that, but it would have been sent as a joke, making fun of Jason, not as some sort of convoluted attempt to hit on Blaha or whatever he's trying to insinuate.
This is what he sent another man while telling all of his followers how much he's against degeneracy. That's what he's building his whole reputation on. Keep in mind, he made an entire video, an hour-long video, talking about me and dildos. This is where his mind is. This is what the dude sent me. This is what he sent me. Natural hypertrophy sent another man a dildo. And then bragged about it on social media as if this makes him straight and it makes the other person not. You guys see where we're going with this?
Oh, I see where you're going with that, Blaha. You're going to get a lot of mileage out of that thing. But I do find it fascinating how every single lolcow absolutely fails this particular test every single time. All Jason would have had to do to win this situation is to not acknowledge the gift, because the point of the gift, contrary to what Jason thinks, isn't to make him look gay or even to have him use it. It's to get a reaction out of him. And boy, did Blaha give us a reaction. I mean, he made a 53-minute stream about it. So even if Blaha threw it away after the stream, natural hypertrophy hypertrophy or whoever sent it got exactly what they wanted. I mean, there are now screenshots of Jason Blaha holding a large purple dildo by his face with a big smile. He may have made a few dollars from some idiots who sent him super chats, but Blaha, you genuinely could not have lost any harder in this situation. Plus, this is possibly the least heterosexual way to handle this. I mean, if I was in Blaha's shoes and I received this, I would have just thrown it away and not thought any more about it. This kind of circles back to Blaha overreacting to prove how straight he is. I do highly recommend that you watch this whole stream because it is really funny. But for this video, we're going to take a look at one more piece of evidence that I feel really proves my point. It's a video by Blaha titled, "Dads, do you notice that young men are inspired when they see fit older men?"
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to chat with you guys about something I've made as a casual observation. Again, I'm doing this at the age of 47, and again, I'm not telling people how to be a father. I am not a father, okay? Just make that clear. But I am someone who gets put in a position of mentorship frequently because I'm a coach, things like that. So I'm often in those positions to where young men do seek out my advice. I'm also in a situation to where, because of how I look walking down the street, or even when I've been in gyms training and stuff in the past, I oftentimes do get stopped by younger men who, hey, they ask me for some training advice, or they're inspired, or they're chatting with me. They're like, "Whoa, you were really jacked. Like, how old are you? You're like, you're my dad's age, or older than my dad." And they're then inspired by it. And I mean, it could be guys as young as high school guys who will stop you in a grocery store, or it could be guys in their 20s. But the thing is, I have noticed that they want to stop and talk to you. They're inspired. They're motivated. Okay? They seek out your wisdom because they recognize that. They're like, wow. I mean, especially when you are the age of their father or older, they really notice. And dads, that's kind of the point I'm making.
What an odd and downright creepy thing for Blaha to be lying about. I mean, genuinely, why is Jason Blaha fantasizing about high school aged boys or young men in their 20s coming up to him and ogling his body, calling him big and jacked, and asking him for advice? I don't even have to tell you that this absolutely does not happen to Blaha. There are zero young men who look at Blaha and think to themselves, I need to take advice from that guy to look like him. In fact, from my own personal experience as someone who discovered Blaha going on 8 years back as a high schooler interested in fitness, the only thing he ever inspired me to do was to work harder so I never looked like him. But that's just me. Jason may be oddly interested in young men, but he is framing this video to be more focused on the dads of those young men, saying that they need to whip themselves into shape.
When one of those young men stops me and they ask me the questions, and I one time in a grocery store had like a whole group of like high school guys, there were 5 of them, and they're goofing off in a grocery store, right? And they stopped and talked to me for a minute. They're like, "Dude, you're jacked, you got veins everywhere. Like, what do you do to lift?" And they had questions. But then they go home and then maybe see their dad, and their dad's on the couch, doesn't lift, not in shape. And I want people to think about that. Fathers out there, how do you think those young men then look? And I'm not trying to say that, I need to be replacing their father or any such nonsense. But they saw me up in my late 40s, right, doing this. And then they went home and saw their dad. After being inspired, do you think there was a little disappointment? Do they're kind of like, why can't my dad be like that?
That's right, hosses. If you don't have the Greek god physique of Jason Blaha, your son is going to look at you like you're a failure. You're going to force your son to talk to old, short, bald men in a grocery store to get their inspiration, and you don't want that, do you? Maybe Blaha does actually have a point. I mean, if you're in such bad shape that your son looks to Jason Blaha as inspiration, you probably should make some changes in your life. That is, however, looking past the fact that there are many other reasons for someone to be inspired by their father besides physical fitness. Sure, physical fitness is important, and I do personally believe that everyone should make an effort to be the healthiest that they can be for their own sake, really. But the idea that even if Jason Blaha was a world-class bodybuilder like he claims, that it would somehow make him more valuable to some random kid than that kid's own father is ridiculous. I know he did pay lip service saying that he's not saying he should replace anyone's father, but it really doesn't mean that much when the very next thing he says is that those high schoolers went home and were disappointed by their fathers due to being in the presence of Blaha. It's truly some of the most wild, egotistical delusion I have ever heard. So I think that's a pretty good outline of my evidence that Blaha is a fruitcake. I think that it is truly his worst kept secret and something that he should just come out of the closet with. I mean, like I said earlier, we are in current years, so this kind of stuff is socially acceptable. Your dad already wrote you out of the will for other stuff, so you truly have nothing to lose here, Blaha. Anyway though, that's going to be it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a blessed day, and peace out.